Hello, I'm Luke Hindmarsh.
And I'm Damien Humphreys.
We are
In Deep Crypt.
welcome back to the deep pit of crit because today we're going to be looking at some roleplay philosophy and a bit of a weighty subject, isn't it? What makes good roleplaying? As if we know.
Yeah.
I think we do. We've had enough experience, we've seen it. Sometimes we've maybe
Yeah.
even touched upon doing it. I've certainly seen you do it very well.
And likewise, seen you do it. Do I have to be a great actor to be a good role player?
It's a very good question. So, in talking about this, kind of playing with the idea that there may be like sort of four levels of role playing. And the first level is pretty easy. You're not role playing, you're just playing a game.
Yeah.
And that's where everyone starts, with very, very rare exceptions, I should think. It's where you're learning what you're doing. This is a strange game. It's like a tabletop. It's like a board game. Lots of people start with the question of who's won this one, and it's difficult to get around that. But we'll assume if you're watching this, you probably are over level 0. So we're into level 1. What's that?
I guess that's me in a game.
Yeah,
So I'm playing myself. My character has certain abilities and mechanics and things they are better at, things they're not so good at. But personality wise, I'm just playing me. It's Damien the fighter, Damien the wizard,
yeah.
Damien the space engineer. You know,
And it involves you putting yourself fully into the game world to be
yeah,
there. And that's a step. That requires trying, doesn't it? Because role
yeah,
playing is about, I suppose, there's a big part of it where you want to have fun, you don't want to take yourself too seriously, and you've got to be. And I think your first point was you've got to be willing to give it a go.
got to try. Yeah,
Yeah. So at that level 1 of role playing, you could be using an accent. You could be speaking in a different sort of cadence, if you like, or in a different way. But that's not
yeah.
necessarily operating at a deeper level, is it? And what do you think about that?
No, I agree. I, yeah, accents I think help. Accents can sometimes be a way into a character, can be a way to differentiate that character from myself.
Hmm.
Uh, Certainly different ways of speaking. I will have different modes of speaking for different characters, and and if on a real base level, I guess that's okay. That's a good start. That is a start to role playing,
Yeah.
because there is a difference between me and that character. We discussed kind of flat characters and round characters, didn't we?
Yeah, so it gets into the sort of very academic angle of how these work. I suppose the way I understand it from a novelist's perspective is a flat character is effectively a caricature, one that you
Yeah,
can define by a sentence of this is who this character is, and that lets them be predictable to some way. They are always going to act in accordance with their
yeah,
defining sentence. Round is that's relevant to them, that defining sentence, but it doesn't encapsulate them. They surprise you, they break away from that and come back to it. And
and I think as a games master, a lot of my characters are at this first level.
yes, I
You
think they
know,
kind of have to be.
a lot of NPCs, the random market trader, the random bartender, the town guard, are all going to be pretty flat characters. I will decide on a way they speak. Um, an awful lot of my blacksmiths tend to be Scottish dwarfs.
I don't. I'm not sure. I think that's the first level, because I think once you start having a caricature, I think that's second level. We'll
Okay,
get to define what those are in a second. But I see what you're saying. I don't
yeah,
personally think, having played a number of your games, I don't think you operate on the first level. So you're not Damien pretending to be a Scottish dwarf blacksmith. You're a caricature of a Scottish dwarf blacksmith. But
yeah,
that's, for me,
okay,
is the
yeah,
second
yeah,
level of role playing, not the first of.
okay,
Sorry, I mean, I'm telling you, you might disagree with me about that, but that's my view of where you are. Not all the time, just
yeah.
when you are a Scottish dwarf blacksmith. Um, so do you have to be a good role player? Do you have to use an accent? No. Do you have to use a different speech sort of cadence or mannerisms and all these things. No, do you have to be the excitable character who can be all happy about seeing 1 minute and then go through the range of emotions? Those are acting skills.
Yeah.
And that obviously is required for being a good actor. But our question is, does that make you a good role player? Is that just at the first level? And does it have to carry through to be second level and third level? So if you don't use accents and you don't have a different way of speaking, can you ever be more than a basic level? I'm myself in this imaginary world, but I'm putting on makeup and a funny accent and pretending to be someone else. But I'm still me.
I think to go deeper, there needs to be some change, some process of where I start to meet the character. And speaking from the point of view of an actor, I can get up on stage and I can recite lines, kind of, which is where we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah.
But if I want to do a good performance, then I need to do my research into the character. I need to, get all the motivations. What is my motivation for the scene? But kind of where my character comes from and where the story arc is going to, and find a way to meet that character with myself. So,
yes.
kind of, there's always a part of me in every character I play, whether on the stage or in a game. There's always a part of me there because I can't leave me completely behind.
Yeah.
Maybe some people can. Maybe that's a method acting thing that some people can do. I'm not going to get into a philosophical argument about different ways of acting.
Well, there's a parallel in writing that as a writer, when you're writing a character, we are a lens for the character, and as much as possible, you can polish that lens and minimise the extent to which it affects the view. But you cannot remove the fact that at the very least there is a clear pane of glass between.
Yeah.
That
makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So I would say I've certainly seen actors who come very, very close to being the character in that moment. We can all think of roles. It doesn't take much to think of people who've done that, but they never stop having a touch of themselves.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think to go beyond that kind of first level, there needs to be a stepping out of myself to an extent and meeting the character, and whether that becomes a set of rules that character lives by, a certain way that they speak, a terrible, dodgy French accent, for example, for one character I'm playing at the moment. I think that does immerse me a little bit more, and when I'm playing with other players that do that, it immerses me into their character a little bit more. Their character becomes a bit more believable. Sorry. If a games master is doing the same thing, the world becomes more alive. Yes. If every character I meet speaks exactly the same as every other, because that's the way the GM speaks, the world feels flat. Whereas if there's even a slight difference, little colloquialisms that come in, or catchphrases for certain characters, all these things are really easy to do. Actually, you don't have to be Marlon Brando.
Doesn't have to be a good actor.
Or Jessica Tandy to be an amazing actor. Right? Yeah. You can pick up on phrases. You can have a little catchphrase. You can have a cadence that lets you into that character.
Are you someone who talks very quickly all the time, or do you consider and take your time a bit? Or I can see that's another way. For me, I think you can do all of those things and still be at level 1 role playing, because you can only have up to level 3 at the moment. For me, level 2 is you have to have who is this character and how would they react to a situation in a way that I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So as a player, I will have this character do something which may not suit me as a player because I think this is not the most convenient solution to the game, because you've given up on him being the game element and it's more the role-playing element, and have them follow so they have a code. So thinking about books, or Dragons of Autumn, Twilight, and that whole Dragonlance thing where you've got Sturm, who is by the code and the measure. I'm not saying he doesn't change, but he is very much he would he would not run from combat because he's an honourable knight. Now, let's face it, most people who are role playing, you might think you've learned about courage from doing so. I'm sure we all do think that. But if we were faced with a real live orc, we probably would run away from it.
Yeah.
Maybe we wouldn't, but probably. Having to be a character that, okay, so we're in a game, we might think, well, we're outnumbered. Our character's going to die, so we'll do what's good for the character's survival. But if the character's driving definition of self is, I will not retreat because it's a matter of honour, there might be an excuse to a retreat because you've got to protect the innocent or something. But is that not a different level from... So you could have someone playing with their fancy accents, and I use them a little bit as a crutch, maybe, I sometimes think, or a different way of speaking, but not necessarily have that subtler, deeper element, and really you're just getting the same character, which is the player, over and over again with different voices.
With the different voices. No, I see where you're coming from, I think, I do agree with that. Given that example, you could also have a different character who would run away.
Yes.
Whose own life is worth more than everybody else's. And me as a player, Damien would probably be, I've got to stand by my friends.
Yeah, you would not want to be the one who runs away.
Yeah.
But actually, it makes sense
but
for
actually,
the character to be
the character I'm
cowardly.
playing is craven and cowardly, and it's like, I'm out of here, guys. Sorry. So we're getting into the danger of it's what my character would do territory, which we'll do another video on, I'm sure.
If that's the second level, and we've talked about the first level being, so you're actually immersing yourself in the world, what would I do? Second level, what would a character who is this set of rules, this caricature of a character do in this situation, which can have a problem attached to it, and maybe whether you're then on the face of it dressing it up with the accent, the different way of speaking, the acting side of things. What's the third level? Now, I've got a suggestion for that, and I don't know whether which I've told you, but I don't know whether you agree with it or not.
Well, let's hear your suggestion.
So my suggestion for the third level is where you do have a character who has a defining trait or code, but they are organic and can change from it, not necessarily in a way you as a player. So it's the ultimate. When you're playing the game, you are immersed not only in the game world, but in the character and their motivations, so that what they do really matters for you, and they're not predictable by either who you are and the value of your actions from a game playing perspective, or from the sentence, the definition that you've given this character, but they can move away from that and move back to it and change over time. Whether or not they're doing a silly accent or a good accent, or whether or not they're
or any
doing
accent at all, I completely agree with that. I think that's the is it the pinnacle? It's certainly the next level. Is I'm playing a character that has all this background and has this setup and this way of being, but is able to learn and able to change and able to grow, and may fall back into old patterns of behaviour, but actually can have a conversation, can change motivations, can change outlook. And I'm going to shamelessly use myself as an example right now. In your Traveller campaign, which is
no longer going to be a Traveller campaign.
No longer going.
The same campaign, but we're changing rule sets to...
Yeah.
Well,
so my character, Captain Frank the Shank.
Yes.
And we kind of all started with, I guess we all started with these secrets, with these kind of various other things we were doing, So I was kind of the undercover agent within the group for our employer to kind of make sure that everybody did
agent
what they were supposed
codenamed Old
to.
Boy, indeed.
Old Boy, yes.
Yeah.
But as the game progressed, actually the company meant less to Frank, and almost as we got further out from Earth as well, the company was more and more distant, but actually the events that had happened meant that the group that Frank was with was more important to him than...
Your loyalties evolved.
My loyalties changed. And there was there was a moment which I don't think you said you didn't see coming, where I sat the group down and said, "I'm a spy. This is my secret. I've been the spy all along. I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, and I regret it because actually you people are the ones who are important to me, and whatever we do moving forward has to be the benefit of all of us, and to an extent, the corporation."
Yeah.
Which led to then some evolution of other characters, kind of
Yes,
saying,
indeed.
okay,
And some
yeah,
not,
so, and some
which was
not.
also an evolution.
Yeah,
Because they chose that their secrets were more important than disclosure
Yeah.
to the group. But it wasn't. So there, you could have ignored all of those things. So it's interesting because we then played Alien with the agendas in that, and this
Yeah.
was this was before I'd run any Alien characters. So it's not quite the same as the agendas there. Think I'd made pretty plain that what I'd hoped was that the secrets would cause tension and conflict without it becoming necessarily PC v PC or player v player.
yeah,
But at the same time, your character, I mean, it's a frustration that we've stepped away from it in some ways. But I couldn't take the system anymore.
no, I didn't force that change. I didn't
No, you
sit
didn't.
down at the beginning and be like, well, this is what's going to happen, and at a certain point, I will do this. That was a change that came because of that character, because of the events that happened to that character,
Yeah.
and the recentering of his moral compass.
Yes. The dynamics of this is a character who'd been a Marine, had then gone to prison, had then been released and had a bit of a rough time, not really making ends meet, and had been given a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
Like $1 million.
Yeah.
So you can have all of this money that we're offering for this mission to yourself.
Yeah.
And to make that decision, which went against player characters' selfish aims.
Yeah.
So if you'd have played him as a caricature, you wouldn't have done. So your character, he's a bit of a meathead in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's not that you haven't played him like that. And there's still that element of him, not totally a meathead, but also there's very much who he cares about is.
Yeah.
It's not instant. It's not everyone.
No.
But
no,
there's
absolutely.
but the adoption of those changes. The other thing is he isn't. Sorry, I should have switched my mobile phone off before recording. The adoption of that change is not, if you don't mind saying, it's not you. You wouldn't behave like him in the first place.
No.
But you've not changed him to be more Damien. I don't think. I think he's still very distinct from who you are.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Obviously, with a core of you in it.
Yeah.
But that I agree that using him as an example, and using you playing him as an example, that is a level 3 role play. Do you put on a particular accent for him? I don't think you do.
With Frank, I don't know.
No, there's not.
He has a few catchphrases.
Yes, and he speaks in he's a bit more blunt than some of your other characters that you played. But with him, the role playing is less you. So you're not like you're acting, but you're not leaning into the more superficial but obvious elements of acting. Does that make sense? The superficial role playing is I'm going to try and put on a French accent or whatever. When all right. I'm going to be with a voice like this all the time, and that's going to be my defining characteristic. That doesn't. That's superficial role playing, which is brilliant, and it can really engage people. But the deeper level is where you're actually getting the most out of it. For me, and I think, given what you've said, for you too.
Absolutely. And I think this is kind of the crux of this video, right? What is role playing? What is a good role player? It's a willingness to try, and it's a willingness to grow.
Yeah.
Like you said right at the beginning, none of us start off very well. There may be some people that start off at that level 3 role playing.
I don't think it's necessarily very so it might be more difficult for some people to let go of things.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like being a great actor versus being a great role player, or being a level 3 role player isn't necessarily so obvious. So being a great actor, you're needing to have the facility with the superficial outside driven by the inside motivations. Being a great writer, which I can see when someone is. I can't say I am, but what I would aspire to is to have characters that are like this, that aren't just my voice, not just me speaking. But I think anyone can go to level 3.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we've
yeah.
seen
I think so. Yeah,
we've seen someone who, I'm sorry to say, is generally at level 0, is playing a game, isn't really role playing a lot of the time. We've seen that particular player being at level 3 at times.
yeah, yeah.
So
I think it's a skill that needs practice, like anything else.
Yes, absolutely.
A muscle that
knowing what
needs
you're trying to do.
development, perhaps. Yeah,
I am trying to be a different person in a different world. I am not just being a caricature in a different world. I am not just being myself in a different world. I'm trying to be a living, breathing being in a different place. And that's very difficult because it's a little bit... I'm not going to use the term, but it feels like it's a bit of a mental break in some way from who you are. It's an attack on ego, maybe. I don't know.
Perhaps, yeah. A little bit of divergent personality going on. And this is, so this is not to countermand Rule 0 at all. Rule 0 being, are you having fun?
Yeah.
Is
everyone having fun?
Is what you're
doing?
Fun?
Is what you're doing ruining it for everyone else? Oh, sorry.
And is somebody who's at level 0 having less fun than somebody who's at level 3? That's completely subjective.
Exactly.
That's down to that person. You can have as much fun at level 0 as you can at level 3. And this is not to say one thing is better than another for the game.
No, I mean, what are we really saying is, if you want to step up your role playing, of course, try an accent, give it a go. Yeah. But bear in mind, it is window dressing. If you want to step up your role playing, try and be. I mean, maybe you already are a level 3 role player. That's fine. It's great. Yeah. It's not. I'm not saying it doesn't have to be snooty and sort of highbrow. It's just if role playing is what. So a level 0 role player might be the best at the game. I mean, I don't know. You can. There's no. We're not saying you have to be like this to play the game, and we're the gatekeepers of what is good role playing. It's just our view on what makes the role playing as opposed to the playing game. So it's a role playing game. Is it role playing? Is it role playing game? Or I mean, we could go insane breaking it down like that. But
it's an aim.
Yeah, it's an aim. God.
And I think I'm going to finish with knowledge is power, and knowledge is ability. So if you want to improve your role playing, watch a whole load of different types of films and TV. Don't just stick to one genre, one particular actor. Watch a whole load of different stuff.
Read a book.
Read.
Yeah.
Listen to audiobooks. There are some fantastic audiobook narrators out there, and pick up on a couple and hear the way that they develop characters and define different characters. Especially for me as a games master, those little nuances to separate different characters are really.
We could do a whole different video about so role playing that applying those levels to how to be a good games master, if we know, which I think we do. I think you know. You sometimes suggest you think I know, but
I do. Yeah.
False humility makes me deny that because there's nothing humble about me.
And
massive ego.
Be prepared to have fun. Be prepared to look silly. Be prepared to try something, and change it if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Don't ever be too precious.
And not taking yourself too. So we're talking about this very seriously, because sometimes it's nice to look at things seriously, but I think if rule 1 is have fun, rule 2 must be don't take yourself too seriously. And I don't think any of these levels, whilst they could be used as justification for it's what my character could do, that's why I've stolen from the rest of the party. That's really a misuse of. I mean, hey, if that's the way you want to.
I think that's another video altogether.
That's another video as well, but it's not. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about getting under the skin of another imaginary being, whatever that skin is,
who is dynamic and able to grow and learn and make mistakes and be a well-rounded personality.
And I think you can go from 0 to 3 without going through 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I think it's possible to, if you understand and if you agree. I mean, you may say, no, I actually think having a voice and having the superficial elements is much more important than role playing, and by all means come back at us about that. But these are not things that you can't, once you've got the idea, if you think that's what okay, try it, and maybe we're wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll find, actually, I can just suddenly switch into this, and suddenly your role playing is, well, we hope improved.
Yeah, we hope so. Let us
fun.
know in the comments what you think about this. Whether we've helped at all or just muddied the waters. If there's any, if you've got any suggestions of great places to look for learning about characters and characterization, I mean, I could rattle off a whole load. Which I'm happy to put in comments if somebody asks for some suggestions on developing the acting side of things, and you could probably come up with a load from a writing character's point of view.
Interesting that there is such an overlap between acting and writing in terms of how you make a character, try to make a character real, and yet the external, what's visible about it, the superficial result is different. Acting is on the stage, writing is in words in a book. But the underlying psychology, maybe, I'm not a psychologist, so perhaps I shouldn't use that word, but what's going on, the thought processes that we probably both go through, creating a character, is the same or very
probably
close.
Quite similar, yeah.
And that, doesn't that suggest that it is applicable to role-playing?
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think so. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments, especially if you like more videos like this.
Navel gazing.
Yeah, navel gazing. Have we gone on for too long? Could we have covered this in 15 minutes instead of almost half an hour? Who knows? Until next time.
Till next time.